Croeso Sianel Blaid Llwyd. And now on Channel Blaid Llwyd, it's time to check in at the Minotaur Hotel. Yes, I remember all those old BBC and HTV continuity announcements. And we'll just go back a couple of lines for context. You look down to the valley, a place both cursed and beautiful. How cruel are the gods to mix a drop of mercy with a sentence of eternal damnation. Far down, all the way down from the safety of the hotel, you see it squirming. A drop of the god's curse, alive even today. It's Argos doing something by the exit below. It's been a few days since he last called you. It's about time he caused trouble once more. You lay a hand over your armband. This time he can do no damage, and if he wanted to command Asterion out, not even your desire could cause the Minotaur pain now. But you know him well enough to realise that even just Argos' flute is enough to cause distress. And so, like a disgruntled neighbour, you make your way down the spiral staircase. And out to the valley. He does not see or hear your approach. He's absorbed in his work, placing a few objects by the feet of one of the statues lining the hotel's exit. This snake, the labyrinth's foreman. How sick it is that this being whose mission is to torment Asterion cannot bring about a fraction of the harm a crazed, twisted human could achieve. One must wonder how frightful Argos sadism can be when the snake holds no power to bring his victim out himself. You touch the armband. Now, neither do you. Hello, Argos. Ah, Master, how did you... I saw you from my office window. Seemed like you were trying to start trouble again, so I thought I should just come down and get it over with.
Oh, trouble indeed. I know all about it. But get it over with. Sigh, you've only just arrived. Why the hurry?
I really don't have the time or patience for your antics. I'd rather you just tell me what you have to, then I'll tell you what I think about it, and we can both go on back to our lives.
Oh, my lord, what is it that ails your spirit? Has the Minotaur failed his duty somehow? Has a guest disrespected your hospitality?
Not a word about Asterion. He's done nothing to cause any ill will, and our guests bring only joy. Don't imply such things again. I won't stand for it.
I have overstepped, have I not? I regret my words and the distress they have brought upon you, my lord. It is not my goal or desire to bring strife to you. Yours should be a life showered with the finest of pleasures, plentiful in milk and wine, much like Elysium is said to be.
You say that, but you've caused me nothing but strife, second only to what we experienced recently. I received a very unpleasant letter from Clement a couple of days ago, you know. He reminded Asterion of everything that happened to him and the previous guests. It's all fine now, but I'm still not in the mood to deal with you on top of all that. The snake's gaze drops to the ground as he readjusts his pelt. His shoulders droop, his tongue shoots out half a dozen times, his tail coils around itself. At last he looks back up at you, like a child at the teacher.
While it is my duty to inflict distress and grief upon the hybrid bull, I am also meant to assist in your affairs. Sire, with all the humility of my Slytherin servitude, which cannot hope to possess the greatness of the human mind, please allow me to interject. Are you sure this letter comes from Clement?
Who else could it be? I don't know anyone else who'd do something like this.
Could it be a prank? Mankind is supposed to be playful, yes? Maybe a reprobate has perchance said it to bring grief to your lordship.
A reprobate like you, perchance?
And me bring you grief? Perish the thought. For our most esteemed master I wish only joy and glory.
Gentler than rain, the snake lets out a sweet, playful hiss. Sure, whatever. So Argos, why are you going to call me out here today? What are you planning this time?
Ah, my moment to shine arrives. Indeed, I have yet another task for you and your followers. I've gathered a treasure trove of artifacts for you, my lord. You may possess them with an inscrutable knowledge if...
No, thank you.
Pardon? If your proposal hinges on sending Asterion out, I'll have to deny it regardless of the reward. But sire, what I have here is truly a fortuitous finding. It's an essential document which Clermont threw down to the valley during his rage.
It doesn't matter, I'm not going to send Asterion out. Even if I wanted to, I'm forbidden from doing so.
Forbidden? Why, you are sovereign over this land and its laws. Just what could possibly prohibit you from doing as you please?
Oh, many things. My staff, for starters. They've learned the truth of Asterion's past and will revolt or even think about mistreating him.
Then find you better workers. They are disposable as broken tools.
You rub your temples and give him a glare. Argos shrinks back on himself. People aren't disposable.
Forgive me, from your tone I assume faux pas, as they say. But my point still stands. Being peer pressured by your staff doesn't mean you are prohibited.
Maybe, but neither do I want to mistreat Asterion. And there's a third factor as well. You tap the lead armband. This.
Oh, what a rare piece of jewelry, my lord. You have earned the finest.
This armband is part of a contract, Argos. It binds me from sending Asterion out here.
What do you mean? That's impossible. You can't forbid yourself from doing the master's duty. The Labyrinth would never enable such a thing.
We are a bit creative, you see. If I send Asterion out or allow anyone else to coerce him, then this band will amputate my arm. The snake's eyes pass over your armband, as if trying and failing to find anything noteworthy about it. As though he cannot comprehend what you mean. In other words, if I send Asterion out, I will plead to death. The contract is binding and cannot be revoked. I will never, ever be able to send him out. Chances are he'll never come down here again for as long as I live. And believe me, I intend to make sure my successor upholds the same standard. This is the end of your mission. Hopefully, the end of it for all eternity. I'm putting a stop to this senseless torture for good. All at once Argos crumbles. He sways and leans back as though being swung around. The snake holds and squeezes his head, till a knife of grey iron sinks into his breast and severs his life thread in a pang of agony. He crumples like flowers undone, torn from their stalks, and cries like a boy mourning his father.
No, by the 12, by bright-eyed Athena, by all-powerful Lord Zeus, this can't be!
He lunges forward and grabs you up in a hug.
He corrupted you, tarnished your very flesh with his curse. You are tainted, my lord, dirty with his fetid contract. There must be a way to release you from these shackles, a loophole, an inconsistency.
There's no turning back. This is how things will be from now on, for good. So I suggest you take little treasures.
Forget the treasures. What are they good for if you can't? If I can't? By the 12, what a wretched contract.
He lets out the chest-heaving, heart-rending sobs of a child. Perhaps this is what he deserves. This snake meant to torture a prisoner. And yet, what harms he brought compared to the dozens, hundreds of masters before you who held the power to stop all harm from coming to the Minotaur and did not? This sorry beast is but a blip in the grand scheme that has brought Asterion so much suffering. Perhaps a torturer like him, in the strictest sense of justice, should not deserve much in the way of kindness. The gods and their whims sentence mortals to grievous fates. What is there to understand in it? And yet, regardless of how unfair it is for him to grieve at all, this brief moment you can offer a measure of sympathy. Like Asterion does to his lyre, you hug Argos in return, with all the open-heartedness of a father. Your hands lay over his scapulae, and what a contrast they are to the Minotaur's white back. It should be no surprise this snake is lean, for in truth he is beyond bony. He tenses up as you squeeze. You think he may slither away at the contact, but his shoulders relax as he whimpers and groans. His own grasp tightens. He sobs into your chest. Your shirt is getting wet from tears and snot, but you graciously ignore it. You constrict him against you, just a bit, every other laboured heave. What peculiar tapestry the gods have woven, is it not? Here lies the foreman, a wretched serpent who nonetheless could never cause a fraction of the damage Clement had. Did the old man ever feel grief like this? Can he fathom the days and nights Asterion spent locked in the cold room? And the gods, wherever they are, they even remember this forsaken land and the lonesome prisoner they left behind. And Argos himself, do they think of him? He may be above Asterion, but he's still a cursed prisoner surviving off bugs and rodents. When you look at him, when he speaks to you, is he cognizant of the wretchedness of the fate he's been assigned? He bears his duty like a badge of honour, when in truth it is a shackle as tight clasped as the Minotaur's. He gives you one final squeeze, head still buried in your chest. He may not wish to let go, but there's no delay in disentangling of limbs. You ought not apologise for your actions. The contract, the armband, all of it is fair and just. And yet, after witnessing Argos' wailing, wouldn't it only be fitting to say you are sorry? One should never apologise to a torturer, however. So instead you say the second best thing. It's unfortunate things have come to this, but it is what it is. I see. The snake looks at the stash of trinkets he'd been placing at the feet of the statues, then back to you. My intention for you to send Asterion deeper into the valley to retrieve another offering, but in truth I meant to deliver the reward to you regardless of the results. So go on, have it. Forget the task, just take it. It should belong to you regardless. An ochre-coloured clay dish with a black Minotaur painted on it. A set of clay dolls mounted on a single base. A round Minotaur holding a human's right hand, and a snake person holding the man's left. Almost a nativity with how wide they smile. And under it all is a sheet of parchment, aged but as intact as the day it was created. What's all this? Argos looks at the clay dolls as he rubs the forearm on his snotty nose. He says nothing until he moves closer and picks up the sheet of paper. This is a copy of the contract that gave birth to this very realm, or at least a fragment of it. A labyrinth's constitution. Your contracts are powerful, my lord, but make no mistake, a human's world can never compare to that of the gods. You'll find that no attempt at amending or revoking this document will bear fruit. It is superior to us all, and we are all bound to obey it. You'll glimpse much of the labyrinth's inner workings by poring over it. He extends it to you. For a flash his sorrow dies out and only resolution remains. Thank you, Argos. I'll make good use of it. Of course you will. You are a wily one, Master. What about you? What will you do now that you won't be torturing Asterion? The desert wind howls as the foreman's gaze shies away. What life could this wretched being have now? Would you mind answering a few of my questions? Your wishes is my command, Master. Do you have any family? Is there someone waiting for you down in the depths of the valley? A village of snake people or a magical animal of sorts? Anyone you can talk with? Oh, but of course. There's my pelt, for starters. You mean the one you're wearing? Yes, what else? It's been handed down for generations of Argoi. It's our inheritance and our constant companion. And that's not all. You've seen the kind creatures who roam this valley. They crawl in shrieking ladies and their family of cold-born beings. Yes, but they don't talk, do they? It's not company. You just mentioned having generations before you. Do you have a father or grandfather? I have pedigree, my lord, but not in that sense. I did not meet my predecessors, no. They toiled in their own time, and now I bear their mantle. So you've been alone here for... How old are you? Who raised you? I was no helpless infant, my lord. I raised myself, as all servants ought to. What a puzzling question that is.
How old am I? How should I know? Do humans count and name each day and night? I would never bore myself with such a task.
So, you grew up alone and you don't know how old you are? But it doesn't make sense. How do you know how to speak or what you're supposed to do? You mentioned the Greek heroes and gods. How do you even know who they were and what they did? His smile broadens, but his eyes remain half closed as if in caution.
Can't you guess it yourself?
I can't see any logical explanation, no.
The labyrinth tells me, Master. Its minds have told me all I need to know. It has been a long time since I last spoke, but all I know comes from them.
No, Argos, I never heard of such a thing. This place has not one, but multiple minds?
Just like any regular human. Or perhaps does my lord like the competing wants and desires that so plague mankind? Do you not feel conflict, greed and lust clashing with humility and chastity?
Listen, having a set of wants at odds with each other is not the same as having multiple minds. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, you still have much to learn. Do you perhaps think your mind alone is capable of commanding the realm to craft all that you may wish for? The labyrinth's mind hear your plea, read your instructions, and they do the dirty work of putting it all together. Say, have you tried creating life yet? A pet, a tree, flowers perhaps?
I remember trying to make flowers, yes, but with no success.
Of course not. You barely know the full extent of your powers. And you've already signed them off to the hybrid. How about I teach you a trick? A little revelation for your personal enjoyment.
The snake slithers away, taking off his pelt and draping it over one of the statues. An old man of imposing eyebrows who wields a trident. Before proceeding, however, he collects a book from what seems to be an inner pocket sewn into the pelt's back.
Think of life, Master. How about one of those tiny lions domesticated by humans? A cat, that's what you call them. Or perhaps bees, hornets, flies, anything will do.
It's no more difficult than creating diamonds in the palm of your hand. From around your feet, 1, 2, 3 cats crawl into existence. From your fingertips, little thoughts grow into a plethora of bugs. For a moment, you, Argos, and all this life is suspended in a moment of grace. Then when the cat shifts its gaze away from the horizon and towards the statue and pelt. Like a compressed coil, they all burst and leap with sudden fury towards the foreman's discarded mantle. It lasts only a moment. Just as they're about to make contact with it, your mind springs into action as well to command them all out of existence. What just happened?
You witnessed. This too is the labyrinth's nature. Any flora will attempt to do the same if given the chance. Which is why a master long ago put in place a contract to forbid animal and plant life from being summoned above the valley. Now you know why you cannot create life, why the land above is a lifeless, deathless desert. This and much more I've been told by the labyrinth's immortal minds.
Thank you for showing me this. I didn't know.
Of course you didn't. The hybrid you keep above, he's full of seldom shared secrets. Ashamed of it all, I imagine. I would be too. Every secret unveiled comes with knowledge of what he's been through. I've barely seen him in my life, but I know much of the paths his hooves have trod. He longs to live a fancy of being like any other human. He'd rather have you and everyone else, all your staff, kept away from the truth.
And what truth are you talking about?
All of it, every crumb and morsel of his sentence, so none will pity him. If you'd care to know my opinion, he is pitiable, perhaps one of the most so amongst all victims of the god's ire. What a wretched, cursed fate. But it's not wish for you to think so. You would do well to, as much as possible, let him enjoy normalcy.
Why are you telling me this? Aren't you supposed to be his torturer instead of my counsellor?
No. You are supposed to be the jailer. I am meant to be your assistant. Over all these centuries, how often do you think the Argoi, my ancestors, were the ones who raised their hand against the hybrid? You are the Lord, thrice blessed by the Olympians to bring about justice. I am merely here to witness, to teach, and to spur. Does not answer your question. Why I said that? I am no fool, my lord. When you asked about my companionship, did I notice a drop of worry? Or was it care? Do you pity me for my upbringing, for the life I lead here? I am not as proud as the hybrid, sire. I am honoured knowing you would dedicate even the smallest shred of your attention to my well-being. The Minotaur, I hope he cherishes you too. You are shaping up to become a most peculiar lord. Thousands of years and none saw fit to try a stunt as foolish as that wretched armband which tarnishes your visage. Are you surprised by my words? I'll admit you've shown an unexpected side of yourself today. It is surprising, to say the least. Make no mistake, I am still bound by duty, but bringing grief to Asterion is only part of it. I must teach you about this land and the power you wield, so you may become the finest lord yet. I suppose finest is a bit beyond our grasp now, isn't it? As long as you have that armband which would seem to be until death you do your part. But my duty remains. If you tolerate me every now and then, I would enjoy revealing to you a few more of the labyrinth's secrets.
Don't get me wrong, the offer is tempting. But you're sounding quite traitorous today. If the Olympians, wherever they may be, won't strike you down for this or whatever, then sure, I may accept your offer. But I have to ask first. Are you offering me this so you won't be alone down here?
Me? Lonely? I have my pelt, a dozen anthills, and voices which speak inside my head. Of course I am, but it's not kind of you to point it out. Then again, kindness is hardly my strong suit either. I will admit I've grown fond of our clashes of wits. It's like the old tales, they bring such warmth to my heart. You know, despite the armband, did you hear something?
Light and sound are washed away as it, whatever it is, approaches. Your instincts push you to flee back to the hotel. A unnatural rumble fills the air, a deep bass drilling paralysis into your bones and muscles. The snake himself reels back as though leaping out of the way. The creature's presence petrifies him just as much as it does you. Your eyes meet. Mortality is laid bare as thoughts rush forth between the two of you. I'm going to die, can't I? I've stopped here. Haven't been for anything. No. I can't die yet. The snake's eyes shift towards the hotel's entrance and into the statues around you. Muscle is drawn taut, strains and then bursts as you and Argos leap out of the way, just as the thing drops its head to ram and gore its target. Just as you turn and run back to the hotel, you catch sight of Argos throwing something to the side before slithering away. The creature's hooves dig into the ground and it bellows again, but is not charged just yet. Only once you've crossed the hotel's threshold and turned around again do you hear at last hooves trampling the soil, a bellow, a hiss. The monster bucks before crashing its front legs down onto Argos's pelt. When you look upward, you find the snake coiled around the shoulders of a tall god wearing a winged cap and sandals. The monster bucks and stomps on the pelt again and tries to dig at it with its horns. Argos opens his mouth to yell out a command. Before his voice rings out, you can already anticipate it.
You almost killed me, wretched imbecile, he would say. And that's my heirloom, a sacred object used in the gods' worship.
That's what one would expect from the foreman. But the creature's bellowing drowns out his treacherous hiss. He is weak and powerless before this thing. Argos then hides himself behind the god's shoulders, away from your sight. That's when you notice something on the ground by the pelt. A weathered, leather-bound book lying wide open on its spine. In trying to gore Argos' pelt, the creature stomps and kicks the book, sending a few of its pages flying off with the wind. One such page passes over the hotel's threshold, landing not too far from your feet. Can we get it to go away? We are the master. Let's try it. Away, you wretched thing! Be gone! The thing turns towards you and then tilts its head left and right to get a good look at this mortal who commands it. It paws at the dirt as if preparing to charge. Then something shifts in its eyes. Thirst for violence gives way to a bitter obedience. The creature looks up to the pelt and, one can hope, realizes the futility of its efforts. It turns around and, still looking back at you, disappears into the valley. You can come down now, Argos. The thing is gone. Are you okay? The snake offers no response, so you approach the statue and look up at him. Argos?
It almost caught me. If I've just an inch to the left, it would have caught my eye out.
Jeez, are you injured?
No, but I feel lightheaded.
Oh, get down. You might be having some kind of reaction. I'll make some water for you. Drink it. The foreman clings to the statue and he drops down from it, not unlike a child trying to climb down from a tree too tall. Dazed as he is, he displays no concern for his self-image. He dips his snout right into the bowl of water you summon and takes shy, rhythmic gulps. His eyes are red and his cheeks are streaked with tears. Every dozen or so gulps he stops to breathe, rub his dripping nose and let out another sob.
I don't like this.
Getting attacked by a monster out to torture you. I don't want to kick you while you're down, but now you've had a taste of what Asterion must have gone through.
That's not... The pelt. I have to find it.
The foreman surges around the foot of the statue. There it lies, intact, albeit marred by a few hoofprints. His eyes hunt further, however. They're off the side, wide open and hemorrhaging pages, the leather-bound volume once hidden in the pelt's inner pocket.
My book! No!
He leaps, ignoring the pelt, to cradle the destroyed book against his chest, let out all its accumulated sobbing. His first fit of tears today had a childlike quality to it, while the second one was fraught with fear. This, however, is a chest-splitting cry of loss beyond words, harsh enough to tear one's throat apart and turn the mourner into a coughing mess. Any attempt to gather the pages is doomed. Even now as he tries to hug and put them back together, half a dozen slip from his grasp and fly away. Come on, you don't need to cry. It's just a book. If you want, I can get you anyone you want.
No, this one's one of a kind, and now it's ruined. It's missing pages too.
I can help you find them. They can't have been blown too far. If we start searching now, we might be able to find them all. Just leave the pelt on the statue. I don't want a repeat of this incident. The foreman is so engrossed in his grief he doesn't answer. You follow the wind's direction, find half a dozen scattered pages a few metres away, and a handful more stuck on dried bushes. You take a look at the contents, but see only strings of writing in an alphabet you've never seen before. You focus and command the realm to use its magic to translate it. The letters don't budge. Defeated, you go back to picking up pages just as Argos joins you. If you don't mind me asking, what's this book about? Is it Aeschylus? Maybe Menander?
No, it's a special book. I can't tell you what it's about.
Why? I thought I was your boss. Why should you get to keep secrets like that?
Because it's only for the Argoi. It's ours.
Can't I write up a contract changing that?
No, please don't take it from me. You promise you won't, or I'll never talk to you again.
Oh, feisty, aren't you? I'd never expect such words from my most loyal servant.
I'm having an awful day. I have my limits too.
Once there are no more pages left to be found, Argos hides in the shade of a statue and starts piecing his book back together. But the work is arduous. It takes up to a minute for the foreman to check each page over as he too seems to struggle with its script. Perhaps exhaustion overtakes him. After a certain point, the snake just hugs his pile of papers and looks off to the distance. His tongue darts in and out, tasting the air, but ends up catching a stray tear that had been clinging to his chin. You, the statue and the massive valley all tower over this abandoned boy, only dreams of going back home.
Leo, there's something I've been thinking about for a while now. What I'm about to ask may be a bit puzzling to you, but would you say I'm a good person?
Argos, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but torturing people is fundamentally incompatible with being good.
But I haven't tortured anyone.
Are you sure? All this time you've been trying to convince me to send Asterion out. The first time you called me, I had a panic attack. Just hearing your flute is enough to get him anxious. Now we've both seen what awaits him, and you don't seem to like it when it's done to you. What did you think would happen if Asterion came down here?
I know he can get hurt, but it's not me doing the torturing. Well, that's not my job. I'm just here to help you do it.
And if I did send him out and he got injured, wouldn't you share responsibility for convincing me?
Let me try again. My duties as Argos aside, would you say I'm a good person?
I'm not sure I can separate you from what your job is, and what you've been trying to accomplish all this time. Being willing to torture someone, or even to aid in it, says a lot about a person.
I see. So I'm not a good person.
I can't say you are, no. You give him a pat on the back.
Yet, even with all I've done, all the grief I've tried to bring to Asterion, and despite your friendship with him, you still treat me well. I'm just a detestable servant. You have all the luxury and friends you could wish out for up there, but still you're down here.
I suppose being a bad person doesn't mean I can't tolerate you, or maybe even be your friend. I'm not the kind to mistreat others.
What a lousy master you are.
Yep, better get used to it.
Oh, I am already. I wish you'd met under different circumstances. I'd have enjoyed being your friend. A proper one.
Well, we could be friends if you dropped the whole torture thing.
Oh, we could, yes. But would it be wise for the frog to carry the scorpion across a river? That is to say, I'm sorry, but I can't.
He looks away. You sound almost regretful when you put it like that. The snake bites his thumbnail, and perhaps chews it. With his free hand he hugs his strange pages closer. The two of you stand there, as still as the god statues. All the commotion actually covered in sweat, which makes the valley's breeze quite welcome. Argos does not care for that breeze. Instead, it's your presence which soothes him.
I enjoyed my time with you, Leo. Now, you won't be sending Asterion out, I understand. But as I said earlier, I can keep teaching you about the labyrinth. Would you be up for?
I'll think about it. But you know, there is something that would really sweeten the deal for me. Would it be too much to ask you to not wear the pelt anymore? Even aside from being in poor taste, today I saw that it's apparently also dangerous.
I can't deny that. You haven't seen half of it either. I really only wear it when I come to speak with you. It's part of the ceremony. Usually I go without. It makes the monsters less active. So, yes, I can do that. No more pelt, I promise.
He extends a hand to you, the gentleman. You, however, are gifted with a great heritage of mankind, which tells you that such a meek gesture won't do at all. You pull him in by the arm and bless the snake with the back-breaking hug he deserves. Squeeze it with the might of Poseidon's sea, both to inflict companionship and revenge. The foreman wheezes out a response.
My lord, I can't breathe.
And yet harder you hug, for he's earned your mercy in its fullest, multifaceted form.
I yield.
Indeed, only then do you let the rascal free.
I deserve that, I suppose.
Every bit of it and 10,000 times more.
What a most kind monarch. I should go now. I've taken up too much of your time.
I do have other matters to attend to, yes.
I'm sure it must be some blasphemous Minotaur protecting business.
It absolutely is.
What an odd master you are. You hold quite the affection for him, don't you?
If I didn't, I wouldn't be going through all this effort, would I?
Do you love him? No, do not answer. Forget I even asked. This land has seen so many masters, both frightful and kind, but never has it witnessed one such as you. Perhaps this is the will of the gods. On this matter, however, I should not speculate. It is not my place.
Argos slithers off into the night.
Good night, master. May you be the greatest lord this realm has ever seen. Whatever path you choose, I remain by your side.
In the state of your office, you examine the sheets of parchment you saved from Argos' book. No matter how much you glare and squint at them, however, the pages do not yield their contents to you. Their script is written in symbols altogether alien to your eyes. So far, the hotel hasn't experienced difficulties with translating any language in particular. So why is this the exception? Unlocking the true contents of this document will take some effort. Perhaps it can be done with enough people. That's what R&D is for, one could argue. During dinner, you remain quiet about what transpired down below. No reason to burden Asterion with Argos shenanigans. You must be strong and bear this yoke yourself, for your friend. Go on as with any normal night. How's your day, buddy? It was a fine one. A guest approached me before checking out, and he said the sweetest thing. As soon as he laid eyes on me, in the blink of an eye he rushed up to me and said that if I ever visit Malta, he knows a great hotel. A friend of his work said he could get me a great deal. He went as far as saying he would come and raise hell himself if anyone disrespected me there.
What a nice sentiment.
Indeed. The Minotaur supports his head with a hand on his chin while keeping his gaze fixed on you. This thing, this stream of humanity is what I missed and wanted. And humanity missed you, whether it knows it or not. He lets out a drawn-out grumble. As he readjusts his legs, you can just catch the clop of his hooves. Well, thank you. Without you, I wouldn't have any of this. One can't tell who started it, but after Nono drops by to deliver your meals, your hands find themselves side by side, touching on their flanks. Neither of you notice it while it lasts, but as soon as it ends, the emptiness lingers, sweet and nostalgic. And what can we do today? Let's manage our teams here. Some more R&D. Okay, so we're not going to send Kenvish out to explore. That's can really help the surveying, but that's pretty dangerous. I don't think I want to send him out quite yet. So let's throw him in the R&D team here for the moment. Yeah, I think that should do for now. Busy. I think we'll talk to Robert in the lounge today. That sounds good. You head to the lounge. Look towards the familiar corner in the room and find Robert alone as usual. This time the demon waves at you while you pass by. You stop for some chit-chat.
Well, what is today's curiosity, Leo?
Eager, aren't you? I didn't even bring it up this time.
Well, I've come to enjoy our talks, so often have an open conversation with a human who sees my true nature.
In that case, would you be able to tell me a bit about that true nature? What is there to know about demons?
Well, curious about my people? Very well, that I can answer, although I'm afraid what I have to say is underwhelming. There are many kinds of demons, and I can only speak of my people from the realm of Nuremberg. Let's make a comparison for a second, Leo. I met that Kota fellow, the dragon. There's a bit of divinity in him. Not much, just a flickering flame, but it is there. Meanwhile, Lucas, or Luke as he prefers to be called, he is closer to you than I. He told me of his family, and he's from an old pedigree, that of the Greeks. Their old mythical beings all carry a fragment of humanity, and some argue their oldest ancestors were humans modified by the gods. That is the case for Asterion, is it not? Well, I can see it in him, shining, a steady flame of humanity. Mixed, however, well, an exquisite thing his soul is. On the topic of humanity, there's very little separating you and I, Leo. The demons of Nuremberg are imbued with a great deal of that which makes humans, unlike most others of our species. Our shell, however, is different from humans. Chaotic sonic matter, magma, as you can see. It makes good armor. The life of a demon is often dangerous, and so we're all equipped to defend ourselves. Your classical demons of the spade-tipped tail kind are weaker and more adept at disguising as humans. It's useful to those who deal in souls. But my kind has no need for disguises. We rarely leave Nuremberg, and when we do, the usual charms suffice. Still, despite my appearance, I am gifted with a great deal of humanity. Which is why I've enjoyed my time here, around others of our kind. I know my likeness sets me apart, but my job is to defend the souls of the poor against the misdeeds of the wretched. So I enjoy it here, the company of fine men and women. I hope my company somehow lightens your day as well, Leo.
You and Robert enjoy some time together, talking about his appreciation for humanity. You leave with this spring in your step. Let's check in on the R&D team. Ooh, we can complete a project. Just look at how excited Kenfish is. I love that. Let's translate what Argos had there. I'm kind of interested in where it might be.
Leo, I have results to report. We've managed to decrypt the pages you sent her for the most part. As it turns out, these documents were written using a fake alphabet, which, in truth, was just a Greek one with its symbols which were made up once. Although the letters were shifted a bit in what people call the Caesar cipher. That took us far, but I'm sorry to say there's some unique magic keeping this document unreadable even after all our efforts. No matter how much we try, it's as if the words just... I can barely describe it. I can see them, and I know they make sense in isolation. I can't string any of them together, or remember a thing about the contents. This is quite potent magic indeed, and judging by how it feels, I'd wager a guess it's similar in nature to the hotel's translation. I'm sorry we couldn't go any further with it. However, if this truly is the hotel's doing, perhaps these pages will yield to the realm's master.
Back in your office, you sit down to look over your team's findings. The original papers have the same texture as all the contracts you've seen so far. Flexible, but firm and impossible to tear. The decrypted transcripts, meanwhile, just like any regular sheet of paper, save the fact that while you can recognise stray words, sentences refuse to come together in your mind. Or at least they don't for the first minute or so. The more you insist, the more each word finds its place and strings itself into the sentence around it. Here's what they reveal to the realm's true lord. Christos, 80th of his lineage. I am Christos of Crete, the 80th Argos, and hereby I record my mandate's beginning. Hear my tale, my dear descendants, in the glorious lineage of Argos Panoptes, and inscribe within thee mine teachings. The son of Maia saw it fit for my generation to undergo 3 trials, to preach among humans and convince them of his glory, to seal an artifact from a museum, and to survive 30 days in the wilderness without aid. Whichever snake fared the best would earn the title of Argos Panoptes, but my treachery was so great that none dared stand up against me. My feats were well known among my kin, so much so that many never thought of competing in the first place. Those who did I deceived into thinking the role was worthless, a lie, and so they fell into obscurity. A handful persisted, but I spoke the language of their hearts and found fine accordings that sang sweeter. They then stood aside and victory was mine. I arrived at the dawn of a new reign, Master Jean-Marie, son of Bordeaux. He knew war and sought peace for his and his compatriots' minds. As customary I tempted him. His was a Christian mind, so I offered old knowledge of the gods and forgotten tales of his saviour. 3 times I slithered to his doorstep for he relented and prepared the order to send the prisoner out. For his acquiescence was victory enough. I told then the tale of Joseph the Merciful, first master after Christ, whose belief in the Son's mercy led him to release in the Minotaur of his tortures. That was the path the early Christians threaded, and what price he was willing to pay for vain curiosity. Master Jean-Marie's visage grew paler than death, and he looked back into his feud. Never since has he accepted an offer of mine. This is the soul I shall carve for my role, that of an honour-bound deceiver. I shall merely draw forth what lies underneath the lords of an era of humanity, revealing his personal truth. The master, heifer and foreman locked in playing out their roles, like actors on stage. This is our worship, and each generation's dance determines which deity will be honoured. This lord, what a fine lesson I taught him. I wonder, has he understood what his acquiescence entailed? Perhaps he realises now the weight of shackles, how frightful unlimited power can be. Hereby I pledge my oath to play the role of honour-bound deceiver, to reveal the truth and in doing so instruct the Lord. Fate is in humanity's hands and we stand witness. We flip the page over. Dominikos, 81st of his lineage. Bless my mind, Argefontes, to be as accurate as scales, as fair as gravity, and as sprightly as a message from yourself, O blessed mist-scented Iris. In the year of 2019, on the first day of June, I arrived in the labyrinth. One by one I overcame the trials of the son of Maia and earned the honour of carrying the role of foreman. Each one of my victories came from tricking my opponents, and that I bear with unrivalled pride. On the first trial I and my opponents were sent out to lie and deceive the poor, downtrodden and vulnerable. The night before I spread rumours among them of a travelling band of scammers, and told them that tomorrow I'd return to capture the villains if they would kindly play along with my own trickery. We established a pact, the people and I, and with their help I cheated my opponents out of their money. On the second trial I was pitted against 3 opponents in combat. I spread the lie that the ceremony was delayed by 1 hour, and so my first opponent missed it. Neither did my second rival arrive to challenge me, for I knew the sweet song of his heart. He nurtured an affection towards a lass in the village. I impersonated him and lolled over the furtive, handwritten notes. We set up a meeting on the date and time of the ceremony. Then I revealed to my adversary his sweetheart waited for him. He abandoned his duty for love, and so was my victory assured. My third opponent was a hulking brute, longest and thickest among us all. Infected, however, with a heart too kind, a will too soft. He was the sole breadwinner of his tragic family. His mother perished shortly after his youngest sibling was born, and his father was gravely ill. He feared taking the role of Argos Panoptes, but tradition and honour pushed him nonetheless. I instilled ideas in his father's mind. Who would care for the children if he left? Would the father get to his oldest son before his own untimely demise? And so the father pleaded, and the son tearfully relented. On the last trial, my one remaining adversary and I were tasked with sneaking unnoticed into the temple to retrieve a relic. But he hesitated and dragged himself so mournfully during the trials. His will was lacking. I tampered with his ceremonial garment and sewed a chime on its back. This leading him both to his thrifty feet and a fine distraction that enabled my invasion of the temple. Let it be known I tricked and deceived my way to the top, but never did I break my word or utter a lie. A snake ought to take pride in his treachery. It is our duty to hone this craft much like a swordsman polishes his sword and the poet his words. The duty of the Argos Panoptes is to be a thespian, play a role, construct a fiction, go on stage and dedicate his performance to the gods. This, I state, is the truest spirit of the Argos Panoptes, and with my mandate I shall prove correct the legacy of the 80th Argos, Christos of Crete. Know you all that come henceforth that Christos was my grandfather, the greatest Argos before the disgraceful revolt of Clement. His mandate was interrupted by the toddler's Trantum, but 8 decades later his lineage came to finish his grand performance. Oh, what fun will mankind's champion and I have! Hereby I pledge my oath, joyously shall I play the role of villain, the honour-bound deceiver as my ancestor put it, to instruct the new lord and reveal the deep truth of his character. Fate is in humanity's hands, and we stand witness. And the good master, too, stands witness. What a rare moment for a lord to come across the truth of the Argive lineage. There's only been one other instance of this sort since the first snake braved the valley. Nonetheless, the truth of their origins remain concealed, though no amount of secrecy or magic shall stop you now, our good lord. Now, we shall not patronize you. Surely one as masterful as you can muster up your own hypothesis. There's no need for us to say much more. Except, of course, when it comes to the dear prince. You have glimpsed the most powerful secret of the creatures who have threatened Asterion's safety. There's more to learn, however, before you may grasp the whole of the matter for sure. In addition, as liberating as the revelations you possess may be, to bring up the Argos at such a moment may prove grievous for the dear prince. How long has it been since you granted him the laurel wreath? That alone was a measure of liberation. To bring the snake back to his mind would end his moment of bliss. It's only been a few days since the messenger delivered that wretched letter, has it not? No doubt you remember how it shook the prince's heart. Hear us now. It would be unwise to rope Asterion into this matter before you have unravelled more of this mystery. Doing so would only bring needless distress. Have faith in your own mastery, and 1,000 blessings shall spring from your actions. Let's check in on the exploration team. I found 6 raw materials. Luke's doing well with these raw materials. Sometimes one may be taken by wanderlust, eyes driven mad to witness beautiful things. When the halls and corridors grew silent and the bedrooms quieter still, you and your roommate slipped out. The air within the hotel had a velvety quality to it. All sounds muffled, even one's own breathing. Asterion's hooves sliding on the floor instead of crashing down barely made any noise. With half the lights turned off, the two of you dove into and out of darkness after every handful of footsteps. Your arms bumped together as Asterion's lumbering gait swayed left and right. At last you go out into the night. A razor-sharp breeze blows in as soon as you open the door, making every inch of your skin feel more alive than ever before. Asterion walks ahead to shield you from the cold. Now that none might be bothered, Asterion speaks. The usual pleasantries to loosen one's tongue give way to skittering thoughts and topics. The new guests, of course, but also a few words about the more peculiar among the ones who came before. Asterion wonders how Greta and Ismael must be doing. The two of you walk to Luke's makeshift observatory, still standing from the other night. You light one of the red lamps, that is enough. Under its gaze, you and Asterion sit down and get comfortable to enjoy a night of stargazing. This time the Minotaur did not think to bring his lyre. Perhaps your company and your humming in unison suffices. The air thickens as Asterion tries and fails to hold in a giggle. The corners of his mouth curl upwards as he pulls a notebook from his pocket. Oh, I took note of a few more poems today, as you told me.
Can I take a look?
Of course. I just hope they don't bore you.
And I hope you aren't writing these down just because I said so.
Me? Following your orders? Well, forgive me, sir, but for a moment I believed we were meant to be equals.
So thoroughly equal that you now dare give me sass.
My hands may struggle to learn new tricks. My mind still has a few blessings yet.
Good. You'll need that quick thinking to keep up with the 21st century. Now, may I see your new poems?
Here.
Let's just have a look at the poems. Private hymn to the new master, a stranger.
Uncertainty of progress, how sized in heart, in mind, in soul. What bargains and which dealings need to be bargained, learned, relented now. O fallows left so blank at whim, please gentle be, O gods of men and slaves. Grant strength to be a shield, so prized and gilded, used, esteemed. O trust enforce it rigidly. To use, of course, but polish, keep as well. Responsibility alone like me. I hope, with pride, what wisdom, decade-bound, shall now this century-locked life hold reign?
Ode to Hades and the creation of mastic trees and dittany bushes in the garden.
At scent of mastic on the wind my nostrils flare, that sharpest musk awakens every bone. But where the tender flesh of dittany to find? Its hairy leaves enlivening the asphodels, they brush my cheek. The drooping stalks of white-head herbs of hefty leaves do snake between my fingers. Grow, take root, take breath. At hand no savours, spices not, yet precious sticky drips arise at will from craggy hardened flesh of aged trees, refreshing all who pass, at least to all who know this nourishment your sap holds forth, that nourishment from jade-like leaves amongst the knee-deep asphodels. The thorny gum of myrrh, O Lord of many, grows and bows to shade your idol. But around these fields left quiet by the master, you allow the brutish auroch lays. Allow him, you the senses soul, nostalgia-laden craves and longs. My thanks and praise lay at your feet. Ode to the sounds of machines. In the dry nights of winter on the roof of this exile, there's a noise that the wind brings. Just the faintest of sounds, blown from a universe out there. What makes Daedalus now? Do machines heavily wend swift down the roads, cross the tracks set as is shown in the books brought out here of the gears, wires, and the pulleys, mechanics, run so loud and so crowded that in this, even this place, one can hear all the chugging, though faintly of that wide, busy world. One can wonder. One can wonder indeed, locked by the shackles of time, freed by imagining what moves past the valley with power. Kind Hephaestus has blessed you, an unstoppable grace.
Even with the hotel's translation, you notice how rough Asterion handwriting is. But some could argue there's a charm to it. A grown Minotaur whose finely woven poems at a glance look as though written by a middle schooler. There's love in each shakily written letter, all of them pulled from the Minotaur's centuries-old mind. And to think that just a few weeks ago you found her in the cold room. Hundreds, thousands of human poets have written of time, and how its march brings only grief. But how many, we wonder, spoke of how sweetly it heals all wounds? You seem to be doing better with each passing day, buddy.
Do I?
No doubt about it. It's like you become a whole new person with every week I've been here. The Minotaur scratches his own ears, then lowers his muzzle.
Thank you. Leo. When my days are filled as they have been, well, no opportunity presents itself to mope. I have to make myself useful. I can appreciate how high your spirits are, but, and forgive me if it sounds pedantic, I'm not sure I'd say you mope. Oh, pardon? Moping gives the impression you're overreacting, or the issues might not be important enough to warrant such a reaction. In other words, as pleasant as it is to see you happy, there's no issue with taking some time to figure out how you feel. Asterion crosses his arms. A breeze cutting across his back makes his furs stand on end. Sorry if this makes you uncomfortable. When we got that letter a few nights ago, well, I was worried about you. Do you want to talk about it? My thoughts confuse me, Leo. I know not what to believe or say. If you want to hear me, I fear what I could tell will bore you. It is nothing worthwhile. Don't say that about yourself. You're my friend, Asterion. What you feel and think means a lot to me. You are blessed with such kindness, Leo, and... you are my friend, too. I, or perhaps we, are blessed to have you in my life. Well, thank you, Asterion. In that case, would you trust me with knowing what's going on in that big old heart of yours? How have you been feeling since we received that letter? Am I even allowed to feel? What? Please, do not take this as... I'm not implying you forbid me, far from it. Oh, it's my sentence, Leo. The Olympians themselves determined that I deserve this fate. To have someone like you is a blessing, but it is not what I was meant to experience. What Clermont did was only to bring it all back to what this realm was supposed to accomplish, how things were meant to be. Am I allowed to be angry at him when the gods themselves said I deserve what his mandate wrought? You draw a breath and gather your thoughts. The Minotaur doesn't give you a chance. He goes on as if the thread formed ahead of him. When I get distracted, while tending to the hearth or Lord Hades' statue, I remember the cold room and catch myself having such troublesome thoughts. Like a calf kicking inside my chest or an arrow through my brain. I cannot help but hunch over and squeeze myself until it dies down. If it dies down. I barely notice it begin. A paralysis runs from my tongue to my stomach. In a span of a breath, full minutes pass in this blind terror. At times it is humiliating. I never felt such things towards the masters who tortured me. I took it all as what I well deserved. But through all those years I spent locked up, I felt a sorrow gnawing at my chest and a lead weight dropping in my head. I thought of all the guests, all my friends, what must have happened to them. The sorrow and pain, I am well acquainted with them. But this thing stampeding inside of my chest is new, and it frightens me so. That's what I've been feeling. Scattered thoughts. You sweet, kind-hearted man, crosser of deserts, heir of duties most unsightly, lord of hosts and guests, self-shackled king. Go on. Do as your humanity compels you. Could it be that you're angry? No, master. I was never one to let wrath take me over. Not in life, much less in death. Have you been stopping yourself from feeling it? No, it is only... What reason could I have to feel so? Isn't it obvious? People and the gods did terrible things to you. Anyone in your place would feel wronged. But I was not wronged. In fact, they were right in me. The gods, after all. No! You don't deserve any of the things you've been through. I asked you about your emotions tonight. It means a lot that you're telling me so much, but I can't let you believe these things about yourself. You are a great, loving and always kind soul. Look at the hotel. So many people have found a place of belonging thanks to you. The hotel. It's good, isn't it? Aren't you proud of it? It's my pride and joy, Leo. And it's yours. You are the soul of it all. No matter how many times you call me master, it can't hide the fact that this is your creation. You're amazing, Asterion. No matter what the gods said, this is real, more than their sentence could ever be. The Minotaur looks down at his own hands. Darkness shields his eyes from you. He swallows. It is laboured, audible, a struggle against his own body. He opens his mouth to speak, for all he musters is the breath through his gritted teeth. You'll make me cry. He hunches over, hoping and praying that some shred of the hotel's velvety silence will smother his whimpering. But nothing can contain a sobbing so old and deserved. Evening. You gather back all that the daunting day has torn asunder. You gather the man, you gather the bull, you gather the friend unto himself. As you enfold him in your arms, you bring all the pieces together. One by one they are fitted and mended. Not all cracks are sealed, but those that are become melded with gold to weave a beautiful meandering network. You squeeze him harder, until his arms, hanging limp from his shoulders, are consumed by a want too ancient to ignore. His fingers curl, grazing your leg, and that spark is enough to push the Minotaur to hug you back. He sobs, groans, coughs. You place your forehead upon his, framed by his horns, and let him pour out all the chest-shaking sorrow onto you. The night alone bears witness to these two souls. The world will never know, but this is the true legend of the Minotaur and his 1,000 labyrinths. And this one, what a marvellous hotel you two have built, but how insignificant too. Merely a tool to achieve this human thing you have shown us. Can you blame the Minotaur then for not wanting to let go? He holds on to you for as long as his chest heaves, and when the time comes his rough-knuckled fingers refuse to abandon your shirt. And should one reprehend him for remaining close afterwards, shoulder touching yours, sharing that bit of warmth? You reach out and lay an arm over his shoulders. Alone and watched, the two of you huddle together. You let time pass, as much as the friend requires. Leo the kind, a cowherd warm, a sturdy man, and more the gentlest master ere this desert realm has seen. Asterion the Great, the finest host in all of mankind's history. The soft groan. The Minotaur ponders. Why does this man extend such kindness to me? This time, however, he quiets down doubt, and only almost flinches at the compliment. Perhaps it's not his place to know. Perhaps he refuses to look a gift horse in the mouth. Whatever may be the truth, what convinces him is the dream. He closes his eyes. There in the starlit darkness he can enjoy the fantasy, as impossible as it might be, of what may beat inside this man's heart. And as we return to the hinterlands, it's time to end this particular episode. And we'll pick things up with P and Storm later on. Let's just save this here. So, next episode we'll see what's going on with those two. And that will probably be in April sometime. We'll see how things go. And for the rest of March, I can tell you that next weekend will be Password. We'll be doing a new Dean for Day. A new day for Dean. And as it's very similar for all the routes, I may do one extra scene afterwards just to show with Tyson, but otherwise we'll be doing that day in Password as one video. And during the week, don't know quite when, maybe Tuesday or Thursday, I do plan to return to Echo and we'll run through Carl's route again. We're getting close to the end there, but we have some more to go, so that will be the next two videos coming up, Echo and Password. And before I go, thanks as always to all my patrons and donors on Ko-fi. I much appreciate you. And my top tier patrons are Burnt Toast, Kartek, Copus Vissa, Besuksu, Lark Huskerton, Bastian, Ryan Hall, Gunnar Muller, Tiger Cub, Ida Corval, Anubis Silverwind, Brandon Bradford, Dissonance, Bopot, Grizz, Spiderling, Kopi, Sindri Dragowolf, Marcus, Evan King, and Monolay. So thanks to them all. Thanks for watching. Until sometime during the week. Bye for now.